kind of trigger at all. We cannot have an excuse. Yeah, we cannot have an excuse like this slide that you're seeing right now. We can't give you blood transfusion, Mr. Dodds. Your blood type has been discontinued. That is completely unacceptable. That's the reality of doing business in an interconnected world. What has changed? What has changed is that China becomes the manufacturing hub of the world, and India becomes the service hub of the world. We accept that factor. But have you imagined that there are companies who are in the United States, or in Europe, or in Japan, or in other parts of the world, who are dependent upon companies in India to supply them the services? And they are talking about their own services, which now are 10,000 kilometers away, and they are completely out of their control. They cannot even anticipate what is going to happen to them. So therefore, it becomes very critical and crucial for businesses in India to continue to work so that those businesses in other countries are continuing to work and without any kind of disruption. So it becomes very, very important. And why did this happen? And why are we talking about this today rather than some years ago? What has changed and what has caused a fundamental change is the economics of connectivity. And that economics of connectivity underwent a change because of one simple thing, the deregulation of the telecom industry in the United States. When that started happening, the cascading effect was that the economics of connectivity underwent a dramatic change. And that is the reason why India happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right resources, and we started all these new businesses which are backed up on the backbone of the networks and IT. We are talking about software development. We talk about providing back office services, not only the call centers where the voice-based services, but we're talking about very advanced services such as research and development. We're talking about doing medical interpretation. There are hospitals in Europe who send in all their MRI data or CAT scan information or ultrasound information through the internet, and it is diagnosed by doctors sitting in India. And this is a growing business. So we are going up the ladder. However, we must be prepared. And that is the reason why we must make sure that we address business disruptions and business continuity in a much more robust manner. The reality is, according to the Business Continuity Institute, which is a foremost institute globally for business continuity, what BCI says is that 20% of the businesses have a disruption every year. And that's a huge amount of businesses, which if you then think about it, each 5 years, all businesses have suffered a major disruption. That is something that scares everybody. And can we afford that kind of disruption? A report by KPMG. KPMG made a survey of companies, and they sent out a survey form to about 4,500 companies across the world, which is covering all different industry sectors. They covered the manufacturing, they covered the service sector, they covered the hospitality and everything. And when they got the responses, they got about 936 usable responses. And what they found out from this particular survey was that when they looked at, has your company been affected by any of the interruptions or disruptions in that last 1 year, they found, yes, they found most of the organizations had reported interruptions. Of course, some of them were very common that we always think about: power outage. We talk about network failure, hardware failure, software failures. All of those are already there. However, there were some significant things like scandals, crime. They also were significantly contributing towards disruption. Another important question, which was quite interesting, was about and what was reported was the estimated loss to business. And this particular survey found that over 5% of the businesses reported more than 5 million of losses in that particular incident. So you can imagine, we are not talking about small money, but we're talking about huge sums of money. And I would suspect, and I suspect that strongly, that this 5% might not be a completely reported losses. There would have been definitely more losses than what has been reported. A third question which KPMG found was very interesting, and what they said is, what do you think was currently the weakest link in the business continuity strategy and the planning and the recovery effort? And they found, you know, the usual ones were there, which was the data risk, the hardware risk, the technology risks. Those were there. However, what came out surprisingly were two risks. One were people risk, and the second was process risks. So if you think about these two risks which have not been addressed, it gives us something to think about. We need to think about how do we take out the people risk or minimize the extent of the risk due to the people as well as the processes. And what that would definitely mean is we need something to manage our business. And that means that we need to have a standard. Management system standard, just like the ISO 9000 or the ISO 14001 or the other management system standards, which we are quite familiar with and have been using. So we'll look at these two areas, the process risk and the people risk, and we try to improve the reliability by addressing those through a management system standard. And that is one of the reasons why the British Standards has come out with a BS25999 standard to address those two risks.